Are we back? Can y'all hear me on this one? Let's see here. So far, Streamlabs is holding steady. I'm loading up the chat. I don't know if y'all can you hear me right now. Let's see. I got to load up like a couple different sets here. 5x5, you say. Let me put this over here. Let me pause this. It might have been a Streamlabs issue, guys, because I'm not showing anything dropping right now. Are we back? We back on? All right. I think we've got her figured out. I think it was Streamlabs. All right. So far, so good. Let's get into this while we can. Right now, I'm showing 0 dropped frames, a steady connection, 6.4 meg up. Oh, there was a drop to 3.65. We'll see what happens. We'll roll with it for a while. If it happens again, then we'll just Alt F4 and try again. But we're going to try this for now. We're back looking and smelling good. All right. I don't even know where we were. But let's just get into this right now. We're still on VATSIM. Everything looks good. Everybody's here. All right. So I don't remember where we were. I think we were talking about Mike giving bank angle checks. Appreciate you, man. Canadian Moustache has, or Canadian Captain Moustache has subscribed. Thanks for subscribing to the channel, man. Welcome on board. Let's get into this, right? Hi, T. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Lauren, that's what we just did. And so far, fingers crossed, we are good. Lauren, what I need, though, is let me know a route I could fly my TBM into tonight. Can I come into... where would I go? What would be under the? What would be something into? Could I go into LaGuardia tonight? Would I piss a lot of people off with the TBM? All right, here we go. Speedbird, the flight dispatch is loading in the sim himself. Excellent. I'm so excited for the stream. I really think we're going to do 2 streams today. So let's get this thing fired up. Again, we're going to be going over environmental control, ECS. We'll talk about that in cruise. It's going to be about a 30-minute cruise over there. I've already preloaded the airplane with fuel and weight and balance. I loaded up the passengers and all that. Let me just make sure. It did save. Yep, so we got pretty much everybody loaded in here. I put 100 pounds in the forward baggage compartment. We're rocking 50% fuel. I've noticed I think there is an issue, and again, this is a pre-release version, with state saving of some of the loading. I don't know if that's still a Microsoft limitation where fuel state is being reset. Also, what I think it might, if it's not that, it might be me when I do a replay. I think the replay messes up the state saving as far as some other things. Now, the engine wear and all that stuff is still accumulating. I can see the time accumulating. I can see the Hobbs meter accumulating time, but just some other little things here. Maybe that'll be ironed out here on the release version. But so far, everything is so good. We're ready to go. Fly Live is unclear on the aircraft type. Yes, it is. And I saw that. I saw where to edit that in the text file, Chaos, but I saw it after I already loaded in. So I'll hopefully try to fix that for the next one. But here we go. We're going to fire this one up. It's a pretty simple flight plan, but I tell you what we can do. We're going to go here. Let's go on GPU. Let's do some GPU usage today. We're going to go GPU. Main generators coming on. We'll get our nav light on up there. So we're nav, we're main, we're on the GPU. You could see the cabin temp is cold right now. That's because the outside air temp is 39 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 3 degrees Celsius. So we need to either close up. This will vary depending on the outside ambient air conditions as well. If it's hot, you're going to start up with a high cabin temp, low with a blue light. If you're hot, you can open the door. That's the quickest way to equalize the cabin. Right now, we're just pretending that we're sitting here waiting on passengers, and we got our hoodies on, our leather jackets. We're getting ready, so no need to power up the environmental control. But I want to say that these 2 lights here, we've got a red one and a blue one. not in the real aircraft, but the reason that these are here is because you can't feel the temperature of your cabin through your computer screen, right? So it just makes it an easy, oh my gosh, I can see what's happening. It's cold in here, it's warm in here. It adds another dynamic. The other black square airplanes have this as well, but we're really going to dive into it, how to control the cabin today. So right now it's a cold cabin, we're aware of it, but let's just go ahead and get our radio master on here. We're on the, like I said, we're on GPU, so we can fire it up. While that's booting, I guess we can close up some other doors. We'll close up the rear door here. We'll go ahead and we got to bring the stairs in first, and then we press to close right here, and this door is going to shut. Now again, very important, make sure it latches and we get the green lights or the green indicators in the door. This means that it is properly sealed. This is, again, will come back for environmental control. If you don't have it properly sealed, you could definitely have issues pressurizing the aircraft. So make sure you got those green bars right there. With that said, I'm going to come up over here. I'm going to hit the enter. Now, I don't know if this will actually save a flight plan on reboot. I don't think it will, so we're not going to reboot it. But what we can do is we can set our radios. We'll set 22.8 right here. We'll put that in the active. We're not using ground clearance mode. That's going to be in standby for right now. Everything else looks good. Let's go ahead and get the instrument panel lights on. And that all looks good. So we're pretty much ready to go for start. We'll set our cruise altitude is going to be 16.5. We'll set 16,500 feet right here. Now we're taking the 530 off of YSCB. We'll depart runway 35. I don't think it will save the flight plan, will it? I'm curious. Let's just put something in here real quick, and I'm going to restart it. We're going to do this YMBT, enter, and then I'm out of curiosity, I'm going to make it direct to right now. Okay, so now we've got an active flight plan. So let's see if I turn off the radio master. I believe it's going to dump it. And since let's start and then we'll reload it if it does dump it. So before start flow, let's close up everything. We'll pull in the stair here. What's Bravo Mike for in 357 Bravo Mike? Use your imagination, Mike P. I don't really know yet. I don't really know yet. I have an idea. Use your imagination. Thanks for the support. 11 months as a member here on the channel, man. Good to see you. Hey, Steve. Oh, I mean, V1, did you see the latest video of him flying the TBM 960? Matt, I haven't, but somebody just mentioned that he dropped a new video on the 960, which the 960 is cool, but 850 is where it's at, in my opinion. The 960 just looks too new. Like, you have a little car shifter down here. It just looks kind of lame. I don't know. It's just personal opinion. But in real life, of course, 960. If I could choose which TBM to have, I would want a 960. I don't know, though. I say that. Maybe I would want an 850, but maybe I'm just an old soul. Either way, good airplanes. I actually looked at how much a TBM 850 costs because I am loving this airplane so much. About a cool $3 million. I think I saw one for like 1.9 that sold. But then the average flight hour expense of an 850 TBM is like, I think, $1,500 an hour on average. So, yeah. Not going to cut it. Not going to cut it. All right, let's do our before start flow. I'm trying to copy Steve-O on this one here. We got the nav light on. We'll go into pulse mode. We're going to do a GPU start. That's good. We'll go auto right there. And actually, his flow is the other direction. He starts from here and goes around. So we'll go here. That's off, off. We're idle, forward, cut off on the mixture lever. Bleeds are off. Everything looks good here. We're going to go aux pump on. And fuel select is in manual for start. Ignition is in auto. We're pulsing. We're on GPU. Clear prop. We're starting with the door closed today, so it's nice and quiet. Waiting for about 13-14%. Ignition, starters blinking. There's about 15. There's the light off. ITT. Now, we are aware that the OAT and ITT still a little bit bugged in the MSFS. That's pretty warm for starting at 3 degrees Celsius. I think we got up to 900 C there, a little over that. We're still within limits, but from what I've been watching on other TBM 850 start videos, that's a pretty warm start. Approaching 50%, we're going to go ahead and go starter off. And we'll go, we're in main generator. Oh, I left that on. Rip, should have left that off for start there. That's good. Then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and he kind of reverses flow back down the panel. We'll go auto, boost pump into auto. Comes down here, we'll go ECS bleed into auto. We'll do fan only for right now. We'll come back to this panel. I'll explain it. Radio master, autopilot and trims are coming back on. And then we'll go ahead and get the pitot and stall heat. We don't need the inertial separator right now. And flip on our FSmaster. All right, with everything booting up here, now we'll take a look at our first kind of discussion on the ECS and how do we warm the cabin here after engine start. Now again, I'm doing this. Oh, look at this Kinger over here with one prop running. That's awesome. In real life, you'd obviously want to be able to start up and just get rolling, but because we're doing some explanations here and some teachings, we're not going to, we're not rushing to get off blocks. We'll also go into high idle, and we can go ahead and go back to battery. We'll check our main, standby, volts and amps look good. Reset the caution, hit enter, and oh, it did save our flight plan. Interesting. Okay, so we're gonna adjust it in a little bit here. But before we adjust the flight plan, let's go ahead and take care of the cabin because we have a cold cabin right now. We need to go ahead and fix that. So what we're gonna do, since it's cold and the cabin temp is 10 C or 51 degrees Fahrenheit, we're gonna go bleed into high bleed, and I'm gonna run the temp up here. This is your temperature control knob, 15 to 25, so I'm gonna run that up. And now with the bleed in high, we're going to be taking some of that compressed air, and it's going to go through the heat air exchanger and start warming the cabin essentially. So you can see the cabin temp is already rising. We want to make sure it doesn't get too hot, but we're already trending in the right direction. We're standby 1200 on the the transponder, so that's good. And now let's go ahead. I'm going to adjust this flight plan to our actual route here. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. We need to come in here and we need to insert a waypoint, which is going to be Charlie Bravo. So we're going to go Charlie Bravo, which is basically just the VOR, Australia. And then we also need to enter something just before that. We're gonna stay in keyboard mode. We're going direct to Dubus, which is essentially on Victor Airway 169, but we'll call it direct to like so. So CB Dubus and then YMBT. That looks good. Flight plan mode. Now we can select a departure procedure. There is a radar departure procedure out of here. We're not going to worry about it. We're going to probably take off 3-5.
BT12 departing Canberra. Departed time 01. I'll be tracking northbound initially on the tangent to departure, departing the area to the south. Climbing 7,000 for flight level 200.
Magic Bell ref key. All right, so I've got this in terrain mode here to kind of guide us out on departure. We're going to depart off runway 35, so I'm going to keep my course needle in VOR because I want to use this as like a pseudo runway reference. So 350 heading is going to, we'll sync it up. It's going to be about 350 on departure as well. Just one ping, please. I love that when you start up. Who was somebody commented on one of the other streams. I saw it after when I went through the chat log. It's pretty hilarious. He was you were texting in the Sean Connery accent about the Hunt for Red Octobers. It was pretty funny. All right, everything looks good there. I'm going to put this on fuel flow. I've been kind of messing with the engine trend monitor. I like putting this on fuel flow here. It makes things a little bit easier. We don't need the inertial separator. We're going to go flaps to takeoff position. That is set. Now for trims, I've been finding out, I don't know if this is a Microsoft thing. Going all the way to takeoff is a little bit much. So I'm going to do right about in between neutral and the takeoff position. Should be, at least what I'm finding, is a little bit more comfortable for after rotation. I'm able to nicely trim out the airplane. But pretty much everything is set. Our environmental is set. You can see here our blue light is out. Means the cabin is warmed up nicely. Before it gets too hot though, I'm going to knock it back to right about there. Now, before we get out of here, let's dig into the actual part of this. I wonder if we should do this at cruise. Let's do this at cruise, but briefly, because we're going to go over in depth this entire panel. But before we get to cruise, we have to actually set it so we don't pass out. We're going to set our cruise altitude to 16.5, but I'm actually going to set 18,000 feet here, and you'll see why I do that up when we get to cruise altitude for demonstration. So I'm going to set this 18,000 feet. That's a small window. When we level off and cruise, we're going to discuss this knob, this gauge, and everything here in detail, so you have a much better understanding of what's actually happening here. And even if you don't fly the TBM, maybe you fly a light jet or something, there's a lot of other airplanes that use this same type of ECS system, so you can apply it to a wide variety of airframes out there. So stick around for that. That is going to be our cruise discussion, but right now this is how we would want it to look as we're getting ready to depart. So we got our cruise altitude set, our bleeds in high. We can actually probably throw that into auto right now because it is warming up nice and rapidly, 72 degrees. I'll knock this back just a tad. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead and make a radio call and get out of here. Canberra traffic, what are we? TBM 7 Bravo Mike. We're going to be at taxi runway 35 Canberra. All right, taxi light is coming on. Ooh, whoa. Whose Lear is that? That is awesome. That is awesome. A Learjet. That is sweet. All right, here we go. Let's get out of here. We're going to make a right turn, taxi to 35. Taylor Maston, welcome to Commercial Pilot. Glad to have you on board. Make a tight right turn here. I wish there's a way to get rid of those, like those ground crew guys. They always park right in front of the airplane. And Tim Valero has also joined as Commercial Pilot. Glad to have you on board. Welcome to the stream. Even comes with the phone chargers. Yeah, we're going to go out. So we're going to make a right on Charlie. Yeah, we'll go in front. We're going to go right on Charlie, and then we'll get out of here. Let's go. Now, one fruit fly here. I have a suction needle. Does not appear to be working here. We're gonna have to look at that when we get to the end of the runway. Our bleeds are on. That suction needs to be in the green. Why is our gyro suction? Oh, wait. Let me reset these. I'm gonna run her up here in a second. We might have to take a look at that. We're not showing any gyro suction. For fuel, Pilot, thank you for the $10 bank angled check. Appreciate you for fuel. Fuel is definitely expensive. That is definitely expensive. Thank you for that $10 bank angled check, Pilot. Appreciate you. Hope you enjoyed the stream today. It's going to be a fun one. Although I don't know why we don't have a suction indicator, or why our suction is not working. Our bleeds are on. Might have to look in. Do we have an active failure? We do. We have a couple. We have a partial vacuum failure. ADF. We have a partial failure of our vacuum system. That, my friends, is why I love having mean time between failures on. I have mine up a little bit higher than normal. Now, what's interesting is the vacuum has failed in the normal position. If we didn't check our suction here before takeoff, I think we would have been in for a nasty surprise. But luckily, we've doing our taxi out checks, making sure we have green gyro suction, and we don't have any. So we have a partial vacuum failure, which can be quite detrimental in an IMC environment if you're not on top of it. So there is no CAS message associated, Tim K, with that. That is why it's one of those failures you need to be highly vigilant in your scan. That is why this gyro instrument is right in front of the pilot's line of sight, because it is an important gauge. And if you have a partial vacuum failure, I've actually had one in a light GA airplane before, recognizing it is the key to success. If you do not recognize it right away, you can definitely get yourself in a bad situation. So we've recognized it. We'll come down near to the run-up area, and we'll remedy it with maintenance on board. We'll do a reset here. So we've got ADF as well with a partial vacuum failure, terrain and TCAS. So again, I'm running my failures up a little bit higher than probably most people will. Again, I like doing it this way because I feel like it gives you purpose. I think I probably only have about 10 hours on this airframe, but 10 real hours at 32x, you're definitely increasing the amount of failures you're going to get. So cool to see that happen. Plus, it's good for testing. Everyone's happy when there's no suction. We're getting a little bit fast here. Instead of riding the brakes, let's do a little beta. Love it. Sorry, King Air. I'm taking a shot every time someone asks for a release date. Pilot, I forgot to get back to your another $10 bank angle check. Forgot to pay for my seat. Pilot, I appreciate you. Thank you for that additional bank angle check, man. You're sitting up front now. We only got 4 seats. You can pick which one. I would suggest this one right here. Middle row, left window. Yep, pretty juice. I am an AMP with PT6 experience. I'll hop out and fix it real quick. Perfect. Crimson Ghost is here. We're going to pull up into the run-up pad and fix our fault. Canberra traffic, TBM 7 Bravo Mike. We're going to hold short of 3-5 here. We got to do a run-up, so y'all can go in front of me if you need. Pilot with another $10 bank angle check. Forgot to pay for badge. Hey, Pilot, I appreciate you. That's what that 100 pounds of baggage was up in front there on our weight and balance. So appreciate the support. Bank angle checking. Your bags are on board. We'll get you there. We're going to pull over to the side here real quick. I'm going to go into a little bit more of a beta here. All right, we'll stop here. We'll set the brake. Caution comes on. And we'll go ahead and kill our taxi light here. I got to remember which one's my taxi. Is this my taxi? Yeah, I bound it to my Bravo. Okay, so we have partial failure. Let's go ahead and reset. ADF, we don't need it, but we'll go ahead and reset it. Train and TCAS, we'll reset that as well. So those selected failures have been reset. You can see here, I've been pretty good to my engine, 99%. You know, I did do a little oopsie on one of my starts, so that's why it's at 99%. But everything else looks good. You can see now, look, we have gyro suction. We're in the green. Beautiful. We don't need to do a prop overspeed test now because we basically just did that by looking at our failure page. Everything else looks good to go. 74 in the cabin. That's wonderful. Trims are set. Let's go ahead and put that on altitude mode. Canberra traffic, TBM 7 Bravo Mike, we're departing runway 35, left crosswind departure, Canberra. All right, here we go. Cams are coming online. Let's go. Flight Dispatch says, I got my new TV today and the sim is looking amazing on it. Excellent, Flight Dispatch. Yeah, I feel like this, I don't know, Sim Update 13, I feel like everything runs pretty darn good. I even upped my LOD and my draw distance for the stream, so hopefully it doesn't brick my rig, but I cranked everything up pretty high for this one. All right, so I've got terrain mode here on my 530. You should see this start to change colors as we climb away from the ground from red to yellow, just because we were departing an airport in a non-radar environment with high terrain. Just a little additional situational awareness. It is VMC outside though, so theoretically we should be able to just see and avoid all terrain. One thing I want to note here on departure, we do have a governor system on the 850, which should limit torque to around 105%. But it is noted in the manual and in real life, you are to set takeoff power as if there were no governor. All right, so we're going to set close to 100 torque, and we can go over it, but we do not want to do that. The governor would stop us at 105, but again, We want to pretend that there's no governor. We're going to set it right at about 100. We got a super long runway. We can even probably set it right about 99. If this was my own TBM, I'd probably be doing is reduced torque takeoffs, as many as reduced torque takeoff as I could to save engine wear and tear, because the PT6, very expensive. Don't want to damage them if you can help it. So we're VOR needles, we're runway checks here, so now I'm going to switch this over to GPS. We're going to make a left crosswind departure. Our heading is synced. We're ready to go. 16.5 is set. All of our lights are on. We're in pulse mode. We're pulsing. Canberra traffic, TBM 7 bar, Mike departing runway 35. Canberra traffic. Let's get out of here. So first things first, bring that torque up. Get that prop all the way up to the governor. I'm watching my prop. All right, we're up into the governor now. Let's nice, smooth, slow application of power here. Just under 100, because it's going to creep up a little bit. Right there. Power set. Engine instruments are all in the green. Airspeed's alive. Here we go. See, I like this rudder setting here. I'm using just ever so slightly on the left here to counteract the trim that I have set. Right about 90 to 100 knots. Nice, easy rotation. Positive rate. Gear up. Fly with. So you can see, yeah, it's still a little much on the rudder. I'm actually importing left rudder here to counteract that rudder trim. Might need to adjust that. You can see our 530 terrain mode is starting to show you where the terrain is dissipating. We'll get a little bit more trim in here. All right, we're looking good now. Keep working that rudder out, that rudder trim out. Go ahead, flaps up. Let's make our left crosswind departure. Ooh, bring those flaps up. That nose has a tendency to drop. Don't let it drop. Right about 144 knots or so is what I see Stevo Canevo flying around at. A little more trim here. As we make this turn here, I'm going to go flight plan. I'm going to reselect Charlie, or actually I'm going to reselect the Dubus intersection. We're going to go direct to, activate. That'll straighten the needle. Now we got a nice nav track we can follow. Let me check my rudder trim. I'm going to bring a little bit more of that out. Great. I've been pressing my aileron trim instead of my rudder trim. Rip. Reset my aileron trim now. There we go. 140 knots. Resync my heading bug. And we're cruising. Trims out quite nicely. I'm going to turn the sim down because it's really loud. All right, I want to look at some juice here, but as soon as I get her just right about like that. I mean, she's trimmed out nicely. I got a little aileron trim in there that I didn't mean to have. I thought I was moving my rudder trim, but I was moving my aileron trim, so let me reset that. There we go. Hands off, trimmed out, 140 knots. Doing a wonderful job here. So to engage our autopilot optimum way here, I'm going to go ahead and yaw damper on first. I'm going to go IAS hold, and we'll go autopilot on, and we're pretty much on our nav track, so let's select nav, and we are ready to go. Verify on your PFD here. We'll go full screen cam as well, not much else to see. We are autopilot, yaw damper, nav. This is essentially flight level change mode here, right? Flight level change. Go ahead and bring that torque back. It's creeping up a little bit. It's been a while, but always appreciate you. Is that Rand Cool? Appreciate you, Rand Cool, with a $25 bank angle check. I thought it was internet issue. Bourbon resupply was called for now. Hey, with the internet issues, yes. Thank you so much, Rand Cool. I appreciate you, my friend. I'm definitely going to use that this weekend, man. I appreciate the support. Love having you around on the streams. Hope you enjoy the content. And that's going right into the bourbon collection box for the return to base when I go home tonight. So thank you, Rand Cool. Appreciate you. And Mateo Chewy, just monitoring the climb out here before we hit 850 mode. I'll talk about that in a second. Mateo Chewy coming in with a 5 pound as well. I'm sure you already answered this. But is the TBM better than the Black Square King Air in your opinion? Yes. Here's the thing, Mateo. I have a real soft spot in my heart for King Airs. But if I'm being objective as far as the aircraft as a object in the simulator, the TBM is more advanced than what Black Square has done with the King Air. The reason for that being is the Black Square King Air, as good as it is, and as much as I love it, it's a default airplane with Black Square's added mod. I wouldn't want to say mod, but their added contribution. So getting the circuit breakers working, getting the cockpit changed, but it's still limited by some of the default Azobo aircraft issues. Whereas this TBM is ground up Black Square. It's its own airplane. You can open the doors. There's more they can control within the airplane. So it's more advanced as an object, if I'm just being objective in the simulator. You have the TBM object, the King Air object. But personally, it's hard for me to say that because I do truly love the King Air. But thank you for your support, man. Appreciate you. Now, real quick before we get to cruise altitude, because we're still rocking here, about 1,800 feet per minute. Torque is below 100. Props at 1,900. We're going into 850 mode. Shaquille O'Neal likes to call this rental car mode. Probably wouldn't do this if I owned this airplane. So with 850 mode engaged, now my torque is no longer limited at 105. I can go all the way up to like 120 on the torque, which we're in the green. Everything will be fine. I want you to pay attention to the fuel flow down here. We're 66. Watch as I increase this torque. We're in IAS mode, so we're going to increase our vertical speed, not our indicated airspeed. We're really starting to bring down the gas now, almost 70 gallons per hour here. We won't even go all the way to the full 120. We'll set it right about 118-ish. And look at that. We're doing 2,100 feet a minute at 11,800 feet at 142 knots in a single engine turboprop. That is some serious performance. We're cooking with gas now. But that is 850 mode. It gets rid of that governor limitation at about 105 torque. Again, you can only use 850 mode in the flaps up position and in climb and cruise. That's really the only time you're going to be using 850 mode. So it's part of your flap lever. That's why it's on the flap lever, is they don't want you using 850 mode for takeoff. I mean, I guess theoretically you could if you did a no flap takeoff, but that's kind of you kind of see what I'm going at there. If you go flaps for takeoff mode, you can't physically be in 850 mode. So that's kind of the limitation on that. Just got to be careful as that torque might have a tendency to run up on you. Keep it under the limits, bring it back just a tad here. Depending on your hardware, I think my Bravos might creep a little bit. I think my Bravos have just a little bit of creep, so they kind of creep forward over time. But everything else is looking good. As you get into higher altitudes, the torque will start to drop off. Right now our cabin is doing a great job. It's pressurizing slowly. We're going to talk about that as soon as we level off. So that's going to be our in-depth discussion at cruise. I'm going to bring this back to nav page 1. We're 25 minutes en route, 68 miles. Well, I guess I should say 68 miles to Dubas, and then we make a slight left turn. So we got a little bit more time than that. We're taking her up to 16.5. Airspeed is good. Props and temps are good. Another 1,500 feet to level off, and then we're going to settle in and go into study mode here on the 850. What does 850 mode actually do? So it eliminates the torque governor, or I shouldn't say eliminate. It removes the governor for your power setting at 105 torque. So for takeoff, and I think I have these numbers right. Let me read it here real quick. We're 1,000 feet to level off. Okay, so in 850 mode, climb and cruise flight may be conducted above the 100% torque value. As you can see here, we're at about 115 torque. With 850 mode not engaged, the torque limiter prevents the pilot from torquing the engine beyond approximately 105 torque at sea level. However, the torque limiter should not be relied upon during takeoff, and power should be set as if there were no torque limiter present. This is what I was talking about earlier. Torque limiter is not very precise, and actual torque limit varies with atmospheric conditions. That's a big one. So you always want to set torque as if you didn't have it. All right, we're leveling off in cruise here. Bringing the power back. I don't want to be ripping on this one because we're going to sit back and we got to do some discussion here. So I'm going to set my power with the torque. I'm going to bring the torque back. I'm going to start us out with about 90 torque. And now I'm going to bring my prop back to 1900. but I actually like 1800. It's a little bit more quiet. I looked in the manual. There's nothing wrong with coming to 1800. I see Steve-O Knievo flying around about 1900 torque. I think that's pretty much the standard, but it says you can go all the way down to 60 at cruise. So I'm going to bring it back to 18. It's just enough, just a little bit more quiet than 1900. So you can see now we're setting up nicely. 90 torque, 1800 RPM. We're doing about 53.8. That's right about spot on with the book, right about 53, 55 gallons per hour at this point. So we're set nicely here. We're leveled off. Our indicated's going to go ahead and increase speed to about 190-ish. Absolutely perfect situation here. Beautiful. Let's take a look at the outside shot. What do you guys think of this? I'm liking this. I'm doing a little bit of badging here. I got the American flag, Texas flag. I'm liking it. I think I want to move this a little bit more forward. But other than that, the TBM just looks like it's always speeding. Inertial separator is not still on. All right. Flight dispatch says my TBM is climbing better than the Vision Jet. That's impressive. I mean, it is a rocket, no doubt about it. I like King Air pilots better because they can keep up with jets in the Tracon. TBM might be quick for a single, but it's still a single. That is true. 2 will always beat 1. 2 engines will always beat 1. But Lauren, are you working center tonight? Because I might just come in there and wreak some havoc. But all right, what we all came here for. How many wings do I have in my name? Syntac, you have reached the ultimate V1 mode. What did we call it? You've been I forget what we call that. Syntac has reached, what is that, 48 months? Whatever the maximum level is. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for the support, Syntac. I appreciate you, my friend. Hope you continue to enjoy the content here on the channel. Very, very kind of you. All right. Make sure I get through some of these messages here, and then we'll get into the ECS. You can reduce thrust, but there's 850 mode on the 850. Exactly. Lauren's here. Oh, hey, Laura. Good to see you. Coffee. Yeah, my wife and I, we had multiple coffee stops this morning. Oh, yaw damper is on. Did I take the yaw damper on? Yeah, I was just scrolling back in the chat here. Yep, yaw damper's on. All right. Now I'm all caught up. Sorry if I was ignoring your message. Didn't mean to ignore you, but I was just trying to get to cruise so we can settle in now and discuss what we're here to discuss. You're working ZOB 7 tonight, Lendy, and the FOCWM arrivals JFK and Newark, respectively. All right. Might have to bring the TBM in there. All right, let's get into the ECS, or the Environmental Control System. Now, ironically, Just Flight just released a video on this as well, so I recommend checking that out. A little bit more in depth, a little bit more technical. What I'm going to do on this description here is I want to give you guys a broad understanding so you get the basics of what's happening. And then if you want to get really technical, you can check out the Just Flight video. But again, this particular panel and type of pressurization system, it's in the King Air. We had it in the 90s, had it in the Citation that I flew. We had a very similar one to this as well. So you can apply this panel and this lesson to a wide variety of aircraft. Syntax with the $10 super chat. This is strictly beer money only, no bourbon. Syntax, appreciate you. I'll pick up a 6-pack on the way home as well. It's going to be a fun weekend. You guys keep supporting the channel. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Syntax. Very kind of you, my friend, for the $10 super chat. We'll pick up a 6-pack in your honor. Thank you. All right. Let's talk about pressurization. First off, why do we want to pressurize the airplane? Okay, as you climb up in altitude, typically once you get above 12,000 feet, oxygen begins to get pretty thin for the brain. You start to suffer the effects of hypoxia, or lack of oxygen to the brain. It can impair your thinking, your judgment, your decision making. You get up high enough and you become fully hypoxic. It is, the way they describe it is basically you act as if you are extremely under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Like your mind is just not thinking. But yourself, you think you're doing everything fine. I've been subject to hypoxia. We did the hyperbaric chamber. So lack of oxygen to the brain is a big deal. There's a couple of different ways around this in aviation. Some less expensive light G aircraft will not have pressurized cabins, but sometimes they'll have a supplemental pilot oxygen bottle where you can don some type of oxygen, supplemental oxygen, and you can use that while flying. while that is fine and dandy, if you start doing long range flights or try to go far or have passengers, bringing supplemental oxygen can start to become more of a pain than it really is worth. So enter the pressurization or the pressurized cabins. To pressurize the cabin, you must have a completely sealed cabin. That's why it's important when we close the doors on the TBM that you make sure that it's not only closed and latched, but that the indicators show sealed, because if you do not seal the doors, whether it's the aft cargo or the aft main door or the pilot door up front, you could have pressurization issues. That's also why there is a tendency to not see windows or little pilot windows in pressurized airplanes. If you look at your Piper Arrows or something, you got the little flap window you can open up here. You don't have that in here because this airplane needs to be airtight. It needs to be pressurized. With the pressurized cabin, you're now able to keep the oxygen levels the same, maybe not the same. You get to keep them at a much greater value than you would if you were unpressurized, so you do not need to breathe on a supplemental oxygen tube. Okay, so if we're pressurizing the cabin, we know why we got to pressurize the cabin. What's physically happening to the airplane when we pressurize? Think about a balloon. When you blow into a balloon, you are building pressure inside that balloon and it is expanding. This is where you also sometimes get plug type doors. So the Airbus cargo doors on airliners in general, a lot of them are plug style doors. So they aren't, even though they're latched and sealed, they physically cannot be forced out of the airframe from the inside. And that is by design. The door is slightly bigger. So if you're putting all this pressure on the inside of the cabin to pressurize, you're not going to blow a door open. So building pressure from the inside, pushing out. That is good. That is normal. What we do not want is the opposite. We're a pressurized airplane. We're not a submarine. These airplanes do not handle the opposite effect, whereas you create pressure on the outside, low pressure on the inside. That is where you can get into some problems. Think about implosion. Think about submersible, the submersible that imploded. Not a good situation. Now, there are safety precautions in place to prevent either a too low of a pressure or negative differential pressure or a too high of a pressure inside the cabin. And what happens is most of them are analog, and when they feel an X amount of pressure, I think the TBM is about 6.5 psi or 6.2, you can actually kind of see there the red line, those valves will open, relieving the pressure of the cabin so it doesn't pop. All right. Okay, so we kind of covered the airplane. We understand we need pressure for oxygen so we can think, and we know we're building pressure on the inside and blowing outwards like a balloon. How do we control it now? All right, it's not what you have to think about here. It is not a one-to-one pressurization. So if I'm flying at 5,000 feet, my cabin is not going to be at 5,000 feet. Or, that's not a really good example. If I'm flying at 18,000 feet, my cabin, I don't want it to be at 18,000 feet because I can't breathe. That's basically unpressurized. So it's not a one-to-one. You have two sets of altitudes we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about the cabin altitude. This is what you feel as a pilot and what you breathe. And then there's the outside altitude or the aircraft altitude at what you're flying at. This gauge is what describes that. We have two windows here. We have a outer ring, and this is the cabin altitude as indicated in the big white letters. This is what altitude the cabin will be flying at. So if the little white diamond was over here on the 7, that means my cabin altitude is 7,000 feet, which is getting up there in altitude. I think the Airbus pressurizes right around that 7,000 foot mark, 8,000 foot mark, depends on how high you actually fly, but it's still much better than being at 28,000 feet, 34,000 feet where you can't breathe. So the outside ring is what the cabin is going to feel like. This inside wing or inside ring or window here is the flight altitude. So right now I've set our flight altitude to 18,000 feet. With our flight altitude at 18,000 feet, the little diamond is pointing just past 2. So we're right about 2,100 feet or close to 2,000 feet cabin altitude. So we've built up a pressure where I feel like I'm at 2,000, yet the airplane is at 16,000 feet. The other gauge here is a breakdown of how the airplane is handling your cabin altitude requirements. We have 3 needles here. We've got a trend, or essentially it is a vertical speed, but think of it as a cabin vertical speed. This is how fast we're going to climb the cabin up to 2,000 feet, or how fast we're going to descend the cabin back down to sea level when we start our descent. Because remember, if we don't adjust the cabin altitude when we start down, what's going to happen? We're not built like submarines. We don't want the pressure on the outside of the aircraft being greater than the inside. That's where you become a submersible and can implode. So we got to make sure we reset this as well. But we can control, we have an indicator here of how fast we're climbing or descending. This other needle here, the PSI needle, is the cabin differential pressure. So right now, we're approximately, I'm just going to guess, we're about 5.5 psi. That is our cabin differential pressure from inside pressure to outside pressure. Remember I said that if you get too much pressure, it's going to blow open an analog valve and it will release pressure in the cabin. You can see here it's kind of hidden, but it's right after that 6. I think it's about 6.2 psi. That is the max cabin pressure differential for this TBM. Every airplane is different. Airbus right on 8 psi, 8.2, and we have safety relief valve settings. So if you were to disregard all of this and just try to keep climbing, the pressurization would eventually illuminate. You get a CAS message, and then if you kept going, it would trip that valve and begin climbing the cabin, because it's going to protect the integrity of the aircraft. If you don't climb the aircraft, you will have a structural failure. So that's why those gauges are analog, or I shouldn't say gauges, those valves are kind of an analog pressure gauge. There's no pilot action. They will just open up and allow pressure out. So you can hopefully, whatever, maybe you're dealing with an emergency or some crazy weather, you got a huge updraft, I don't know what it could be, but it's protecting the integrity of the airframe if you exceed that 6.2-ish PSI limitation. This other needle right here is the altitude needle. This is basically this, but it's showing you what it's actually at. So I've set 18,000 feet as our cruise altitude, and I should be about 2.1, 2.2, 2,200 feet cabin altitude. But if you remember, I said our cruise altitude is actually a little bit lower. I set us at 16,500. So you can see, because our cabin or our actual altitude is at 16.5, not quite 18. We didn't quite climb the cabin all the way up to that 2.2. It looks like our cabin altitude has settled right about 2,000 feet, and that jives with what's going on here. So recapping, this is how we set the pressure inside the cabin so we don't pop and so we can breathe and have oxygen. This gauge tells us where that cabin pressure is, it tells us where the cabin altitude is, and it tells you the rate that we are climbing and descending. All right, so let's say we're not going to climb anymore, we're going to stay here at 16.5. Let's go ahead and adjust our cabin altitude. Let's go ahead and let's bring it down just a little bit, right about there. That seems to be about, that's 17.5. So we're about 1,000 feet above our cruise altitude. And now you can see, since I've turned this needle down and say, hey, I want to lower the pressure in the cabin VSI went down, and it went about 800 feet per minute there to start to lower the pressure inside the cabin. We're going to come back to this on top of descent, and you're really going to see it in action here. But if you adjust this, you're going to be adjusting your vertical speed. So if you were to get a step climb here, say, hey, we're going to need to climb up now to 240, we would start our climb to 240, and then we would need to scroll this up. So the little window, the aircraft altitude was showing 240, and I'm guessing it's going to be right around 4,000 cabin altitude. We're going to see the VSI needle trend up. We're going to see the PSI is probably going to go right to its limit. And then once the PSI reaches its max pressure differential, the cabin is going to continue to climb. So these needles work in tandem. As we climb up, we need to maximize the PSI before the altitude in the cabin is going to start increasing. Now, as we start our descent, the opposite's going to be true. We're going to be lowering the cabin altitude all the way down until it basically reaches 0 or sea level, and then the PSI in the cabin is going to start to bleed off. It's going to lag behind. And we're going to see that in action when we start our descent. So recap everything one last time, and then I can take some questions if you guys still have questions. But in layman's terms, we have a controller to control how high we're going to set the cabin altitude, and that is dependent upon our cruise flight level and our landing field elevation. We have a gauge that will tell us the actual environment the airplane is feeling. It will show us the actual cabin altitude, what it feels like in the cabin. It will show us the maximum, and it will show us the current pressure differential between inside of the aircraft and outside of the aircraft. And if you are in a climb or descent, it will show you how fast the cabin is climbing or descending. We're at point 8 here. We'll watch the turn here over Dubas. Out over the outback. This should be a nice juicy turn here. Let's set the camera view right here. And then we'll touch on the rate knob, and then pretty much wrap it up till we start the top of descents, where it's going to get more interesting. TBM at 20,000 feet, 20,000 leagues under the sea. Join late. What are the takeoff and landing airport locations? Dewald, we departed from Canberra and we're flying to Mount Booty. And then we're going to probably return from Mount Booty back to Canberra. Is it common to fly at the max differential pressure, or do you try to stay below that? No, Kyle, it is common to fly at the max, because if you don't get to the max, you won't be able to climb the cabin. So think of it this way. If I were to be blowing on a balloon, but the balloon is surrounded by a hard box, I will only be able to blow the balloon up so big to then where I'm going to start feeling resistance, because the balloon cannot physically expand anymore. So now I'm going to start feeling resistance. It is at that resistance point to where it's like, okay, we've pressurized the cabin all the way up to where it can go. Now we need to start climbing the cabin. We need to start allowing it to come up in altitude, because if you don't, you're going to end up going past the limitation and then either popping or causing structural damage. So it's kind of a weird concept to grasp. I'm trying to kind of put it in more simplistic terms, but we need to pressurize first before the cabin can climb. Because if the cabin's not pressurized, you can't climb it, or you'll climb it at the rate at which you're climbing the aircraft, which then you'll quickly outfly or climb above your safe altitude to have a non-pressurized cabin. So yes, it's very common. And remember, there is the max cabin differential pressure, and then there is the safety relief valve setting. So I think max here is about 6.2, and then there's a relief valve setting that if you were to exceed that, it's going to open up itself, say, hey, I don't want you to pop this actual airframe here. I'm going to open up this valve, and I'm going to let the cabin come back up, release some of that pressure, so it's not posing a threat to the structural airframe. Does that make sense? Chose the wrong machine for this. Zippy, what are you flying in? You guys talk about Steve today? Haven't watched the new video yet. Yeah, someone said he was flying a 960 around, which is pretty sweet. That's the new 960. All right, real quick before we start down, let's hit on a couple of these knobs here. This little arrow is the controller for the rate, how fast you want to climb or descend the cabin. So at the 11 o'clock-ish position where it's at now, it should be about 700 to 800 feet per minute on the cabin. If I wanted to do it slower, I could roll it down this way. If you wanted to do it more than 800 feet, you roll it the other direction. But that's going to be starting to get a little bit discomfort. You could feel it in your ears. Now, on the Airbus, this is something we can control. We can control the pressurization via the McDo. And if I have a cold, or I have a lot of babies or infants on the airplane, like if we get a load sheet and say, hey, you got like 46 infants on board the airplane, maybe you're going to Orlando, I will manually adjust the cabin pressurization schedule to come down from the standard. I think it's like standard at 350 or something. Or maybe it's more than that in the air, but I can't remember what the standard is. Basically cut it in half to 150 feet per minute. Just means you got to start down a little bit sooner, because you have to allow time for the cabin to come down, because if you don't, then you're going to descend below your pressure altitude, which is then what? Now we're becoming a submarine. We don't want to be a submarine. So now you got the cabin at too low of a pressure compared to the outside pressure, and it's pressing in. You don't want that. So you don't want to get behind on the descent. So yeah, so this is your cabin vertical speed adjustment. That's how fast we'll mess with that here on the descent. A couple other things here. In order for the environmental control system to work, in order for pressurization to work at all, we must have the bleed air switch on. So all operations should be auto or high with the engine running. If you are shutting down, we turn the bleed off. Now, bleed pressure does take away power from the airplane, albeit not much. It does bring a little bit of power from the airplane away, so we need to make sure that you're cognizant of that. But again, all flights should be done auto or high. High would be if maybe you're really trying to cool or warm the cabin. We did that on the ground. Auto for normal. The air conditioning and fan flow, fan only is just as what it says. It is a fan that will blow air through the cabin. If you need air conditioning, maybe it's really warm, we're going to go into air condition to the on position. That means it will actually run through the exchanger and provide cool air to the cabin. But if you don't want cool air, just leave it in fan only. And your fan has a 2-position switch, low or auto. We can leave it in auto typically, or low. I mean, not going to hurt anything either way, so I'll put it in auto there. Here's your cabin temperature, 15 to 25. 25 is 75C. We're right there. Defog. This just takes air, blows it onto the windscreen, hot or cold, again, to defog the window or as a backup window de-ice. Now, as we get ready to descend here, this is where it's going to get interesting. So I'm going to show you in real time. What we need to do is set, I'm going to do a vertical speed descent here down to 8,500 feet. So I'm going to pull for vertical speed, but I only want to descend at 1,000 feet per minute. I'm going to set it at 1,000 feet per minute, and we're going down to 8,500 feet. We're in the descent, right? Nothing is happening here. I need to now reset my cabin altitude. So we're coming down to 8,500. I'm going to roll this back. And 8,500 is not a selectable altitude, so I'm going to leave it at sea level because we're basically landing at sea level. You can see here, because I've selected a lower altitude now, the cabin is beginning to descend. You'll notice the altitude of the cabin starts to move here. Once this gets down, this PSI needle is going to start to reduce. If I wanted to, let's mess with the rate knob here. I got to do it kind of quick. I want to descend at a slower speed. My ears are plugged. I'm going to reduce the cabin vertical speed now to about 500 feet per minute, which that means we're probably going to get behind on our descent schedule. So I'm going to bring the torque back here a little bit more. Let's go ahead and bring that torque back all the way about 70-ish. All right. And we're descending at 500 feet per minute. Now, because we're kind of tight on our descent, because we were talking a lot, I'm going to re-increase this to about 1,000 feet per minute. And I'm going to increase the vertical speed on the airplane. I'm only using vertical speed mode on this demonstration because I wanted to show a constant rate here of the airplane descending versus being in flight level change. This, no, it cannot do VNAV unabided, but if you throw in the 750, yeah, you can do a vertical profile and all that. But no, it is a hand flying airplane. You hand fly this airplane. All right, so you can see here 1,000 feet per minute. Look, see how the cabin altitude is coming down? But the pressure hasn't changed yet because we're descending. So we got to get the cabin altitude down, and then the PSI is going to start to come off. All right, we're 14.3. We're descending to 1,500. Let's get the radios back on just in case we need them. Makes sense. I was just curious because I'm working on my commercial, and I've been learning basic pressurization systems. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Close inbound from the north, 20 nautical miles. Sending 12,000. We'll be tracking for an overhead joining crosswind for a left traffic, runway 14, Mount Beauty.
All right, Mount Beauty. It's actually right down there. We need to pick up our descent. So I'm going to go IAS mode. I'm going to bring the power back, which is basically flight level change. 8,500. Let's go ahead and set 5,500. Now we're really going to start to see that descent. Oh boy, that's going to be a little bit too aggressive. This is where you can get ahead of your cabin here. But luckily, we weren't pressurized very much, so we're already at 0, so the PSI is just going to start coming down. But here we go. This is TBM mode. We're starting to bring that power back to flight idle. We're flight level changing at 210 knots. She's going to come down pretty quick. Mount Beauty is just over here. Got any wind reports down there at Mount Beauty? No, it's
clear. And wind other things.
all right. So we're going to basically join. I'm going to fly in here. Let's go into heading mode. So
Their website says winds from the south at 1.6 kilometers an hour. Have fun inferring that.
all right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to come to the left. We'll make a basically left traffic.
King Air 31 kilo Alpha, we're about 5 miles for
1-4. That's what we're going to land on to. Mount Booty traffic, TBM 7 Bravo Mike, red of the 9,000 descending. We're going to make a left traffic for 1-4. We're going to kind of come in through the valley here.
Traffic TBM 175 Charlie Foxtrot is clear of the active. Winds are calm. QNH looks like about 1024.
1024. Copy that. Thanks. TBM 7 Bravo Mike. All right, so we've got that set. I'm going to put my nav cursor back to just regular needles here. I'm going to actually leave it on ADF so I have a nice centered needle, and I'm going to set 140 just so I have a rough runway guidance here. 1,000 feet to level off. These mountains are getting pretty big. I see them. Well, I can't scroll this fast enough. There we go. Hit the shift key. There's our level off. 500 feet. I'm scrolling my ADF needle to 140. Yep, there's a sync rate alert. I'm going to bring that prop up now about 1900. And let's just go ahead and let the airplane continue to slow down. I'm going to set through 2,500. We'll get the rest of our lights on. They are. Mount Booty is just past the hills here. It'll be a beautiful approach. And IS hold. Down we go. Kind of heading bug us over here into the valley a little bit. We're going to kind of come to the left and then make a right turn. Will kind of put us on a midfield entry for 1-4 here. Looking good. All right, we should probably get. Well, yeah, we'll record this landing. Why not? I'll have it recorded for the return as well. Where are you, flight recorder? Oh, come on! I don't have time for this. I got to turn the airplane. Mount Booty traffic, TBM 7 Bravo Mike out of 4,000 for 2.5. We're setting up for a. Just got left downwind approach for 1-4.
Watch out for the trees approach.
Sorry, say again.
You have trees right on final.
Excellent. You see that key 6? God bless Texas. We got the American flag, Texas flag. Lone Star stayed up there. Looking good. All right, let's go ahead and I can kind of see where the runway is. We'll enter downwind. Mount Booty traffic, TBM 7 Bravo Mike, entering left downwind 1-4. All right, let's go ahead and get the inertial separator on for approach here. Bring my prop up, 2,000, 140 on the speed. Let's go ahead and bring in Boeing cam or tiller cam here, leveling 2.5. The runway is right here, so kind of on a dog leg. Let's go autopilot off. Let's hand fly it. Autopilot is off. We'll turn the flight directors off. Yaw damper has to be off for landing. Master caution for the inertial separator. That's good. We're high idle. Props are full forward. We're below our flaps approach speeds. Let's go ahead and select flaps approach.
We are clear of all actives on the range.
And let's go ahead and drop the gear down. Let's make a short approach. Mount Booty traffic, TBM 7 Bravo Mike, going to make short approach here, 1-4. Just a walk in the park, Kazansky. All right, flaps are coming to full. We're below 140. We're flight idle. We're going to make a short approach here. If we have to slip it down, we can slip it down. Let me start the recording now. Recording is on. Kyle Lewis with the $20 super chat, man. You got me right in a short approach here. Let me get her. Let me find this runway. There she is.
Booty traffic, flight dog 255 overhead, joining left-hand wind, runway 14, full stop. Mount Booty.
Cut that guy off. Mount Booty TBM 7 Bravo Mike on final 1-4. All right, coming in around 80 knots here. What'd you get? Kyle Lewis, thank you for the $20 massive super chat there, man. Appreciate you. V1, here's some funds to help you get that in real life TBM 850. Only need about 1.9 mil in donos. You're absolutely right, Kyle Lewis. I'm in love with this TBM, man. Absolutely love it. Hey, we're only 1.9 away. Appreciate you, Kyle Lewis. Thank you for the support, man. Appreciate you. Very kind of you to support the channel, my friend. All right, sink our heading bug, about 80 knots here. We're flaps full on this approach. I see Steve-O a lot of times landing in flaps approach mode, but a little bit shorter runway here. We're going full flaps, inertial separators on in case we got to do some dirt stuff. A little bit of crosswind from the right. We're stable. We're looking good. I don't have trees on my approach. I do have like a truck or something down there, though. All right, flyer down, flyer down. Straighten her out. Oh, yes. Reverse thrust.
Mount Beauty traffic, Florida 255, turning left base runway 14, full stop, Mount Beauty.
Haven't even touched the brakes yet. Now we'll hit on those brakes, nice and easy. We'll come down here. We'll go park where everybody else is at. We'll get rid of 2 passengers and then we'll turn around and head back. That was a Butra. We'll stop recording and I'll save that as TBM Beauty. Save that replay for later. Mount Beauty traffic TBM Sunbro Mike, we're clear at 14 going on the ramp, Mount Beauty. Now since we have...
Mount Beauty traffic, Florida 255, 1 mile final, runway 14, full stop, Mount Beauty.
Actually, I was going to park in the dirt, but let's go ahead and let's clean it up here. Let's go flaps up. Let's get those lights off. Yeah, let's, I'll tell you what, so we don't, let's go into the grass. Let's take our $3 million TBM into the grass, why not?
You traffic, this is Bravo Charlie, short one runway.
Beauty traffic, Golf Tango 95 Delta. We're approaching from the north. We'll be following the valley down and onto runway 14.
That looks good here. We're kind of at a cockeyed so we can see the final. Parking brake is on. Now let's do I'm trying to remember, a Steve-O shutdown. We're basically going up here. We'll kill their taxi light. Nav strobe. We'll get rid of the pulse. We don't need you. Oh no, that's strobe. I remember my bindings.
Beauty traffic, Florida 255,
Generator
clear,
off.
runway 14.
Auto ignition is off. We'll go fuel select manual. Fuel pump is off. Transponder in standby. Bleed is off. You can see we are, look at our pressurization now. 0 PSI and we're at field elevation, so we are depressurized, so we're safe to open. We'll continue to come through here. We'll go radio master off. We'll go autopilot trims master off. And now we will go mixture cut off, and then we will feather the prop. Left the pitot heaters on. That's all good, and then we'll come up here and we will go crash bar down. 1, 2, 3, 4, those are all off. Prop is spinning out. Look at that nice animation. I love that. Absolutely love that. Let's go ahead and pop the door. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mount Beauty. Look at this. Nice corporate jet made it here. Yep, inertial step's been on. All right, let's go ahead and, crash bars down. You can hear the gyro spinning down. You guys hear that? Isn't that cool? That's the gyro still spinning down. Let's go ahead and unlatch. So press to close. So press to unlock. You can see we're unlocked. We're closed and latched, but we won't be able to pressurize this way. Now, we're definitely not going to be able to pressurize. That's going to come open. Deploy the stairs. Man, what Lear model is that? That's awesome. I want a Lear in the sim. Unfortunate timing on my part. Just joined time for shutdown. No worries, Bradley. We're going to spin around here. We're going to get out of here. What livery? Oh, those are just like Microsoft Flight Simulator. Look at that. King Air. King Air. All right, let's go in weight and balance. And this is the only thing I wish it had its own like tablet or something. Maybe in the future. Who knows? I think that would add a lot to this airplane, as you could have it so you could do weight and balance from a tablet. But I think we're just kind of spoiled. But if I were to critique I won't say a negative, but something that I wish could be changed would be having like a separate tablet, how some add-ons do. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of some peeps here. We'll go ahead and drop everybody off. We'll take one person back. No, you know what? Let's see what this can do. Let's go pretty light. 0, 0, 0. We had 50% fuel. We're down to 36%. I think we can make it back. We'll go direct on the way back. We're going to be light. We'll be cooking. Co-pilot and pilot, we still have, let's make about 75 pounds in the nose. Actually, they took the bags out. Who is it that CG had a limit? Oh, that's 500. I wanted 0. There we go. All right, so we're a little bit off center line. That's normal. We've got 3 people on board, no bags. I guess you would have like a, where's our flight kit? Rear baggage. Maybe we'll take some, we got to take some bourbon back, so let's put 20 pounds back there. There we go. That looks pretty good. We'll go with that. Relatively light. We'll see what kind of performance we get on the way out of here. Bomb Tech, I do not have a sim brief profile for this airplane yet. I imagine someone will make one. There's a TBM 9, I believe, that's in there. But here's the thing. Kustak, yeah, I just saw your message. So the TBM app, I did download that. And I've been tweaking it to like make the profile for this airplane. It's kind of, I need some additional information. But if you want to talk about ballpark figures, it definitely applies. So you can download the real world TBM performance app. I don't know if it's from TBM, but there's a couple of them on the App Store. I downloaded one for my iPhone, and I've been messing with the values. It's kind of a, I wouldn't say a pain, but like it's designed for someone who really owns a TBM, obviously, because when you do a flight, you put in all the specifics for that one particular flight, and then you can save that flight. Once you get it all set up, though, you get some pretty good numbers. I think I have to pay for the version, though, that has the 850 engine, has this PT6. I think it has a 700 variant, and then I think it has a 900 variant. So I think we're missing this exact engine. But either way, it's still ballpark figures. And the manual has real-world TBM performance tables in it if you just want to do it the old-school way. And I'm telling you, the manual is pretty darn close to what you're going to get in the sim, which would be to be expected in real life, too, because everything is different, right? Every flight you take off, it might be a slightly different ambient temperature than what's, even though it says 15 in the book, it might be 17 outside. So a little bit of variance is normal, and that's pretty much what you're getting with this airplane. That's what really makes it enjoyable. Look at that, and look at the model too. Look at the reflection. Is this not a beautiful airplane? I always like to look at the PC-12, but I almost think I like this better than the PC-12. I don't know. This is like the short, sporty version of the PC-12. Just beautiful. All right, should we get out of here and return? Let's do it. Let's fire it up and get out of here. Let's come back. Everybody's off. We'll go ahead and... Oh, before we close the door, let's go ahead and bring the stairs in. Close the door. We're latched in the green. Good. We'll zoom up front here. We're going to do a battery start today. So... and before I do that, let me reset Fly Live real quick. We'll reverse it. We'll reverse the Fly Live. Flip it around. Okay. Let me reset you over here. Boom, boom. Should come back with a new there. There's 2 on final. Ooh, even better. All right, 2 on final. Let's hang tight. I guess my radio masters are off. My radio masters are off, that's why. So let's go to ground clearance mode. How about this? Let's go. Oh, actually, we got to go here. Main, generator, and ground clearance mode. So now, look at this. Battery's off, aircraft is depowered, but we still have radios. Yep, COM 1. Mount Booty traffic. You got traffic on final for 1-4?
Confirm, 3 aircraft on final 1-4.
Copy that. So we're on ground clearance mode here. We're just chilling in our TBM.
Mount Booty traffic, November 127 Quebec. We're going to be entering the valley here, making a left turn straight in for 1-4.
Gosh, I love it. There's another TBM over there. I wonder if I should adjust the other airplane sounds. Should I turn on other airplanes and traffic? Look at I get that reflection on the door right there. Oh my goodness. How sweet is that? There's still 3 on final. All right, we'll sit here. Ground clearance mode. I guess let's try this since we're waiting. Let's go ground clearance mode. Let's go flight plan, and let's go menu invert. Boom. So we've basically flipped it. YMBT, CB, all the way to YM. What was our departure?
Mount Booty traffic, Golf Tango 95 Delta, we're about 5 miles from the final.
YSCB. So let's go back here. Let's go here. And let's go YSCB. YSCB. Canberra. Enter.
Mount Booty traffic, 87 Charlie, that goes.
I'll put you in a terrain mode.
Behind the caravan. Mount Booty.
So we don't need terrain mode. It's VFR, really. Let's go like this. Let's zoom it all the way down. Let's do this one here so we can see kind of a layout.
Mount Booty traffic, flight dock 255 is just going to enter and backtrack runway 14, reposition halfway down. We'll be clear in a second. Mount Booty.
All right, so our radios are set. We're 22.8. Let's go ahead and turn the radio master off, and then we'll see if that should save, because it saved on the way in. So we've got that. Now we're just waiting on traffic to clear. And we're ready to go here. Douglas Phillips, welcome to the stream, my friend. Glad to see you. Welcome. Looks like this guy came over here. He's doing a little turnaround. Where are all these guys? All aircraft Mount Booty traffic. Mount Booty Tower is online. Just kidding. Where are these guys at? Pretty neat little airport, though. Pretty neat little airport here. Got the little lake. What's going on over here? What are these things? What is this? I feel like these are something Cobra. What the heck is this? Missiles? It's like these look like those T-Lads or whatever. They're gliders. Oh, they're gliders? Well, that's pretty sweet. Look at this. This is Satabria. What do we got here? Savage Cub. Oh, yeah, it's Cub, duh. Look at that. That's pretty neat. Little static aircraft situation. Where's everybody at? Oh, ooh, we got someone on final. Looks like he's really high. What is that? Oh, there's the caravan. Well, this ought to be interesting. Let's watch this. Floating AGMs. Looks like he's slipping it. Oh, brother. Oh, maybe he has a different scenery. Ooh. That's a short field landing right there. Let's turn on the sound real quick. Let's go traffic. Where's the sound? Sound. Graphics? No. Sound. Other aircraft. Let's bring them up. There we go. Grand Caravan is here. Drop that sucker into reverse for me. Nice little Mount Booty flying today. So we got a Caravan, a Learjet, a King Air, a TBM, my TBM. Ooh, someone else just landed. Another TBM coming in here. Oh, he just took off. Wow, that was pretty ballsy. Leave it to the TBM drivers. All right, I think that's everybody. Let's go ahead and fire it up. It's time to fire it up. We'll do it with the door open. So before start, we're going to come right through here. That's off, off. We're going to go idle, forward, and cut off. That looks good. ECS is off. And we'll go battery on. Generator is off. Let's go main boost pump into the on position. Fuel is manual. Starter ignition is going to the on position. And let's go strobe and pulse start. That is good. And clear the caution. Let's fire it up. Our battery is low on the juice. Did you see that voltage drop? $947 on the ITT. Looking at the NG for a hung start, ITT for a hot start. Basically Steve-O. So we got a good start. There's 50%. We're going to go starter off, generator on, dun 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 dun. We're going to come over here. We're going to go auto select, fuel boost pump into auto, bleed is into auto, radio master, autopilot trims are coming on. And we already had our EFIS displays on. Let's go high idle and close the door.
Copy traffic. Correct 5 miles.
Mount Booty traffic, 87 Charlie Echo, clear the active.
Everything looks good. ITT. No, you can go up to like almost 1100 on the start. I actually don't know what the minimum battery voltage is for start. I think it's close to 24. I got to look that up in the manual. I don't know what the min battery voltage is. I know the nominal is right around 25.5, very similar to the Airbus. All right, we're getting that, acquiring satellites. We came down at 16.5. Let's go back at 17.5. 17.5 is set. So this is something I got to look up. Some cabin pressure controllers like this, you would set the aircraft altitude 1,000 above your cruise. So at 17.5, I'm going to set my flight level to be 18.5, which is going to be right in the middle. So that tells me when I'm climbing out, we should eventually pressurize to about 6.2 psi. We'll see the cabin begin to climb. The cabin should stabilize right about 2,500 feet. So then the altitude of the cabin should be right here, and this psi should be right up here about 6, and that's what we're looking at. We'll go ahead and keep the pressurization schedule at about 700 feet per minute.
255 overhead, 6,500 feet, departing gear to south for Mount Hotham. Enjoy the flight back, boys.
Take it easy, mate. Whoa. Throw some shrimps on the Barbie.
Nah, just a bit more beer in me gullet, mate.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
For me.
All right.
Nah, it's going to be a good footy game today.
What? Is that even English? Oh, I love it. I love Australians, man. Their accent's so cool. All right, here we go. Brakes released. Let's piss everybody off and kind of taxi out here on our own. We've got a 747 landing. Look at, we got a couple King Airs, Global Freightways. All right. This looks like an awesome livery. I know it's a default, but this on a King Air, Global Freightways on the King Air looks awesome. Is this guy going to stop? Mount Booty traffic, TBM 7 Bravo Mike. We're going to be departing out to the opposite of 1-4, whatever that is, 3-2 or something here after the 737. All right, let's go take off flaps. Our lights are coming on. We're going to enter the runway.
Unmuted traffic, Golf Tango 95 Delta. We'll line up behind the TBM.
Trims are set. Now, I'm going to do, for science here, I'm going to not do the rudder trim for takeoff. I think, you know, rudder, I don't know. Maybe I'll just do less. I'm going to taxi underneath this guy's wing, no worries. Because it feels good on the takeoff roll. The problem is when you're untrimming it. It's just that that Microsoft rudder situation. It's almost too quick. So why don't we, instead of doing no trim, why don't we, again, for science, and I'm looking down here, we did half, let's do like a quarter to the right. Because I do know if you don't put any trim in there, you will get that torque. You need that right rudder, no doubt. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to try it this way. We're going to see here. This is testing. I'm going to reset my course. Actually, you know what? We'll GPS off the ground. We'll go put that into GPS mode. I'm going to resync my heading bug. Be a right crosswind departure. Let's go ahead and stop right here. Mount Booty traffic, TBM 7 broad Mike. We're departing runway 32, right crosswind departure, Mount Booty. All right, message. We're cleared that. Course 032 is set. Magic barrel ref is done. Do a quick once over. We're idle forward, or we're idle, full. Everything is good. Pressurization. The lights are set. Pumps are ready. Inert SEP is on. Let's get out of here. Remember, again, prop. Oh, I forgot to give you the cam. Get that prop up to the governor first. And you set torque as if there was no governor, so try to get it right just below 100%. Power set. Airspeed alive. Yeah, this feels good. I have very little rudder on my rudder pedals now. Very little input. And we're light too. Look at this. Nice, easy rotation, positive rate. Gear up. Let's go ahead and go inertial separator off. We got to watch our ITT and torque now because it's going, well, actually it would decrease here. Let's go ahead and spin that heading knob around. And Mount Booty traffic, TBM 7 broad Mike, out of 2,000 feet, right crosswind departure, last call, Mount Booty. Go ahead and roll that down, zoom my range out on the nav display. We'll redirect it here in a second. A little forward trim. I know you got trim on the yoke. I use a little bit of both. I tell you what, let's not go right for the peak. Let's go just to the left. Let's go just to the left. I like using the Bravo trim wheels still though, because I feel like I can have more fine control and I can almost trim the pressure away from the TCA yoke. Again, I say that's just it's an awesome combo. Short of having a force feedback yoke, this Bravo trim wheel and the TCA yoke just really make it easy to trim it out. I'm spinning that trim in there now. Let me reset my heading bug. Let's go flaps up. A little bit of a nose drop there. That's normal. A little more trim. Right about 140. And look, Mom, no hands. 140. We're climbing out. We're looking good. Let's double check our pressurization. You can see our PSI. Okay, so let's do autopilot early so we can watch this happen. So I'm going to go yaw damper, heading, IAS hold for right now. And autopilot engage. All right, I want to come over here and I want to look at the pressurization needle while we're climbing. So look, make sure we're going, let's do, we're on course, 4.8. So, real slowly here, you're going to see the PSI needle has got to move first. That PSI needle needs to start moving. Oh, is our bleed on? Yeah, it's on. I was just making sure it was on. Okay, yeah, it's on. It's kind of hard to see that position switch. Let me go full screen cam too, so I'm not blocking it. But you'll see the PSI is going to increase first before we get the cabin altitude. we're climbing up about 200 feet per minute. We're looking good. Or I guess that's not correct because the cabin is climbing. We're using it. They're climbing together. So the cabin is climbing with the PSI until we reach 2.5, and then this PSI needle is going to go by itself. So let's watch closely here. Let me just make sure everything is fine. Yeah, we're looking good. 6.4. Let's watch the separation. So this is kind of hitting it home. We set 18.5. Our cabin should level off at about 2,500 feet cabin altitude by the white diamond. Right now, the needles are together because we are climbing. We're getting less pressure in the cabin, or less. I guess I should say we're getting more cabin altitude as we're climbing. But once we reach that 2.5 mark, that's where the pressurization is going to actually start happening. You're going to start to see the PSI separate from the cabin needle, and the PSI is going to go all the way up to about its max. So let's watch here because we're getting close. I know we want to look at the outside view, but I want to see this separate here. So we're just about 2, and now you can start to see it's starting to split very slowly. Let's do an outside shot. Looking good. Let's also make a torque and temps check. Let's go ahead and bring that torque back a little bit. It'll be nice to our engine here. Remember, it limits you at 105, but we're not going full 850 mode on this one. We're just going to go nice, easy. And there we go. Now the PSI is going to start to separate. So kind of leveled up, kind of stopped around 2,000. Now the PSI is going to climb up. And then once the PSI climbs all the way up, then the cabin altitude needle is going to make its final adjustment. So, all right. We're at 9.5. Screw it. Let's go TBM mode. Let's see what we can do here when we're a little bit lighter. Let's go 850 mode is engaged. We'll keep it in the green. Let's go ahead and bring our torque all the way up to almost 120. Now we're just wasting gas, really, at this point. Let's go ahead and hit nav mode because the needle is nice and centered. Let's sync our heading bug over. All right, 11.2, 2,300 feet a minute. Cabin is climbing. Everything is looking good. Going all the way up to 17.5. Torques and temps are all in the green. Our fuel flow is 69.4 gallons per hour. So we are definitely cooking with gas. Look at that beautiful lake down there. Thrust said, I think they climb out at 2,000. I think maybe a cruise climb at 19. But we're only going to 17.5, so I'm going to leave her at 2,000 until we level. I only saw torque adjustments in the manual that I was looking at. It was for cruise. I don't see why you couldn't climb out at 1,900. I normally brought the props back after, like, you know, acceleration out to about 1,500 feet or so, just because of noise. But there's nothing wrong with leaving it at 2,000. See if we can wiggle it back just to see if it changes anything. Just get it off that red line. That's pretty good. We're doing 196 knots over the ground. Almost 200 knots over the ground. Climbing at 2,000 feet a minute. 142 knots. Gotta love it. All on one single PT6. Sounds are disappointing. Yeah, it's unfortunate for you. I think they sound great. I wish the beta transition was louder. But by no means does the sound on this does this turn me away, and I'm a stickler for sounds. All right, you can see the PSI is still climbing up. Cabin is just creeping behind it now. It's the 930 sound business, but it's also different. There's a bunch of different custom sounds added. So I think it sounds pretty good. Did the weather radar work? Yes, it does, Chris Strobel. It does. And what's really cool is when I was doing a group flight with Team Vodka and Zippy, we all painted the same cell. They were Team Vodka did. He was in the King Air. He was in the Black Square King Air. We all painted the same cell. I guess it's like that. What? Like it's basically an X-rad radar depiction, which I like. I'm okay with. But there's obviously no radar out in front of us. Do I have Twitter now? X? No, I don't have Twitter. But it does indeed paint a. I guess I feel like Nexrad is a bad way to describe it, but it does paint a radar depiction. All right, we're leveling off in cruise. We got here pretty quick. Let's go ahead and bring the torque back first. Again, I like setting it with fuel flow. Right about that 55. And we're only scratching the surface on the performance of this airplane. I mean, this thing is meant to get up to the high 20s, but these short flights like this, we're going to go ahead and bring her on back. We'll bring that prop back. I like that 1800. Nice and quiet. Am I sponsored by Thrustmaster? No, Captain Will, I'm not. All right, 1800 on the prop. About 92 on the torque. Fuel flow is 55 gallons per hour. Whoa, what was that? That was a weird hiccup. Outside air temp is 8 degrees. Cabin is nice at 74 degrees. Everything looks good. So we have almost like we have a... Wow, so the lighting is so good. I'm putting my hand up on the screen. I'm putting my hand like up on the screen to block the light so I could see if we have a fault light on or if it's just the reflection. It's just the reflection. Only in Microsoft, man. Only in Microsoft. Literally put my hand on my monitor to see if I can cover that, to see if it was illuminated or not. Yeah, top down is cool with me. I guess that's the way to put it. Top down weather. Yeah, it's cool with me too, man. I think it's good. There's our rudder. See, our rudder's off. We need to go into the little left rudder now. That trim out there, you would definitely feel that. There we go. Nice center of the ball up, nice and centered. So, to take away when this airplane releases. Oh, by the way, I will share my profiles. I've been tweaking my sensitivity for the yoke and the rudders. I've been trying to tweak it to the best to like make it feel as realistic as it can with the TCA yoke, because as much as I love the TCA yoke, it is a little bit funky if you think about it, using pendular action with like a regular push-pull on these light GA airplanes, because if you look at the yoke here, the push-pull. But I still like the TCA because of that super fine control when you go into flare or rotate, because of the pendular motion. There's nothing, barring force feedback style yokes, that can really compete with that pendular action for that fine, super fine control there. Now, the TBM, I would imagine, flies similar to any other high-performance, low-wing turboprop. Would it be a King Air at 9D or something like that? And the best way I could describe that feeling, even though I've never been in a TBM, would be like a stiff, responsive airplane, but not jittery, but stiff and responsive. And you could even get into the very light jet category, kind of the same thing. I remember my very first takeoff in a jet. It was a Citation 550. And the only thing I had flown to that point in my career was pissed. The biggest thing I flew was a Seminole. It was when I was just getting into a corporate side of things. The first thing I noticed after rotation, we were staying in the pattern, leveling the airplane off. I immediately noticed you can't just force it. You have to trim. And the reason for that being is, I mean, you're not only you're moving faster, quicker. I think that's probably the first time I've been at 250 knots as well. Is the aerodynamic forces are greater, the flight control surfaces are heavier. In a light, in a 172, even in a Seminole, even if you're out of trim, you can pretty easily override a bad trim and just fly. I had students all the time that would fly in level flight, but they're over there white-knuckling the yoke because they're not trimmed out. like, got to trim it out, trim out that pressure. So being able to trim away pressure is huge, and that short of force feedback, the second best option I think is having that Bravo trim wheel with a yoke, because then you can put your yoke in the position you want, move the trim wheel simultaneously on the Bravo, and kind of release that pressure that you have on the yoke while you're rolling in the trim. That's why I like using the Bravo trim wheel over the trim switches on the yoke. But you have to trim. You got to keep the airplane in trim. This airplane is no different. Like, you got to keep it in trim. It is a high-speed, high-performance, single-engine GA aircraft, but you got to keep it in trim. That's going to really help you out when you're flying, especially doing pattern work. So if you take off and you're like, man, I'm having a hard time controlling it, trim. You're not trimming enough. Trim, trim, trim. Make sure your feet are doing the right things. I know it's kind of hard. We get away from, especially twin engine stuff, we kind of get away from looking at our slip skid indicator. The Airbus, it's all done automatically for the most part. You know, turbo props, if you have counter rotating props, or even if you don't, if you've got twin props, it's not as prevalent. The most prevalent your rudder is going to be is in a very high performance single engine. That's where you're really going to feel that rudder the most. So here we go. We went over our waypoint. GPS is going to flip over to... Did we hold it? We need to go to... let's go direct to YSCB. Enter. Let's go direct to there. Activate. Boom. In the turn. There we go. Had the flight plan kind of backwards. I'm looking for an HPG 145 profile for the Bravo throttle on TCA if anyone knows one. Douglas, that's I don't have one, unfortunately. How you liking that 145? I have it. I flew it for a while, and then when I moved offices, I got rid of all my helicopter setup. But that's the Airbus helicopters, man. I mean, it is an Airbus helicopter, isn't it? All right, we're 17.5. We're leveled out. We're trimmed out. We're looking good. Enjoy it. Let's enjoy some outside TBM view right now. Oh yeah, we never set standard. Oh well, we're VFR. I'm looking for... Oh, we're not... Oh, it's 10,000 in transition altitude in Australia? Man, we'll be alright. We'll survive. I'm looking for... Oh, I read that. Low Gator, good to see you, man. It says, just started my flight training this semester, doing some steep turns and stalls. Any tips for the remainder of my training? Well, steep turns and stalls, coordination. And in steep turns, trim. Trim in steep turns and coordination in the stalls. Be coordinated. Step on the ball. But that's excited, man. Enjoy your training. Which allows more fine-tuning, yoke or throttle? What do you mean? Look out my right wing. I don't see anybody out my right wing. King Air. Oh wait, no, that's just dot on my screen. Yeah, you should be in a King Air. You should be able to catch up. DME. So there's a couple different DME indications. You can, depending on what you have selected on your HSI here, whatever nav selection you have, you can get a DME readout here. We have an actual DME and an actual DME holder over here. So right here, here's your this is your number 2 N1 DME. You can tune your radios, set your DME. You can do the whole, go to number 2. You got your ADF over here. Depending on your radio stack, you might be able to get DME. Well, you'll definitely get it on a 530. You could get DME. We're going to get into this KNS80. I have to learn how to do this thing. This is a completely different nav system than I've ever used. I've never used one, but it's pretty cool. You basically use a VOR, you create PBDs off of the VOR, and you can nav to them. It is a legitimate nav system, but it's unlike anything that I've ever used. And I'm gonna, maybe I'll do some tweaking with it this weekend, and then maybe do a video on the next stream. We'll dig into the KNS80. But this is, if you want to go hardcore mode, you can set your cockpit panel up to be, where are the switches? There they are. You could do like the KX 155 on both of them and have no 530 or no Garmin's at all. That's the hardcore mode. But we're looking good now. Which trim adjustment is more precise? Oh, the Bravo for sure, because it's you're moving it like, well, you can just move it one little button at a time. Well, I don't know. I guess technically it's a button on both, so you could use the yoke as a button too. But I feel it's just easier for mental purposes to roll the trim on with the Bravo and then release whatever yoke pressure you have. And when I say pressure, it's not really pressure. Whatever yoke tension you have on your own yoke. So for instance, in the climb out, I'm pulling back on my yoke, but then when I go to level off, I can roll this trim wheel, which you can't see. I can roll the trim wheel back and then let go of my yoke at the same time, kind of simulating that pressure release that you would have in a real airplane. That's why the combo with the Bravo is awesome. Any simmer that's looking for anything, and I'm not sponsored by Honeycomb either. I mean, the Honeycomb Bravo is without question the most diverse, modulatable. That's not even a word. You can buy different throttles for it. It's just a fantastic piece of hardware. You can do anything with it, just about. The only thing that's not cool is it doesn't have an axis for reverse, but there's ways around that by like how I have my levers as a toggle into the axes and then move the levers forward in the axis. I know next to nothing when it comes to the flying planes, but I really want to say enjoy these streams. Hey, Lady the House, appreciate you tuning in. Spent lots of time with the KNS 80 in the 90s. It was very cutting edge, fun to use, load up your waypoints, kind of like Concorde pre-flight. Tim, that's from what I've seen in the manual, that's pretty much spot on. I just, I want to make sure I do my due diligence studying first before we dig into it. Trying to get it so you can see got the V1 sim on the window there. I love this little airplane, guys. I really, truly do. It is basically a little miniature airliner. Go far, go fast, go high, all the good stuff. 3 hours on the logbook. Low gator, that's awesome, man. 3 hours in the logbook. Just wait till you hit 10. That's going to be a big moment. You'll be like, oh, I just hit double digits. It's exciting. KNS 80 is awesome. Not so good in Australia anymore as we've got rid of many of our VORs. More fun in the US. Yeah, so I'll have to find a good route for it if we do a flight with it. I'll have to find a route that's got plenty of nav aids. Who pinned your V1 logo? Looks great. I need a Texas flag. So Jungly made the logo a long time ago when the channel was getting started, but I put it on. I was messing with the editor, the paint editor, to create my own livery. I'm not creating my own livery. I'm just editing this one. I was gonna change the color or the tone of red that's on the airplane to match the red in the logo and the flag, but then I don't know. I like it this way better. It looks more like an airplane that's been badged. I don't want it to look too fancy. Yeah, the reflection on the elevator, isn't that cool? That's just Microsoft, man, doing Microsoft things. Steven, good to see you, man. Still waiting on this plane. Yes, indeed. This is the first plane I flew in IFR? Really, Scott? That's awesome, man. Go back inside here. We are 9 minutes out from YSCB. What type of approaches do they have? VOR, DME, ILS 35. Let's land on... Let's do an ILS 35. We did an RNAV into Monterey. Let's load up an ILS 35 Zulu. We'll do vectors, and we'll just load it. Monitoring only. Uh-oh, there we go. I just had a little... We'll go direct Mombi. Let me pull up... we'll do a practice ILS approach. Because we haven't done one. We did an RNAV approach, but I got to get Navigraphed. You're going direct to CD35? Alright, so in that case, Let's go heading mode. Let's go procedures. Let's go ahead and activate the approach. Let's go flight plan, direct to Mombi, direct to boom, boom, back to nav mode in the turn. We need to get the frequency information now. Let me pull that up on the old Navigraph. If I can find it. I gotta open the Navigraph app. Alright, it's loading. In my opinion, the PC-12 is a cousin of the TBM. They look almost... Yeah, they do. The PC... It's like the... it's like the civilian... Or the TBM is like the civilian version of the PC-12. PC-12 is most always going to be some business behind it. Whereas I think, you know, a TBM you might have... Well, I'm sure you do have... I'm sure you have PC-12 owners too. But like... PC-12 is going to be more expensive than a TBM. So I'm getting at. But yeah, they're very, very similar. All right, YSCB, what approach should we load? 3.5 approaches. Zulu 3.5. What do we got here? Just want to load in the information. We're going to Mombi 1095 and 348. Oh, an auto tune. Look, so the 530 will auto tune that. 1095 is set. Let's put it in the sense on the secondary. 1095 is set active on both. The final approach course is 348 degrees. We can't set it on here yet, but we'll set our OBS over here. 348 is set when we get in range, so that looks good. And Mombi on the approach is at 4,600 feet. So let's go ahead and start trickling down. Let's start down to 10,000, and we'll start with that. And I'm going to go vertical speed, and we're going to do... Roll it in nice and slow. Let's do 1,200 feet a minute. And the field elevation down there is 2,000. Runway is airport elevation 1,800. So let's go ahead and select. Oops. Select our... Basically depressurize. Actually, it'd be right about here. Yep. Nope. Go there. The PC-12 is like a mini bus, and the TBM is your 3-row crossover. I think TBM pays off Pratt & Whitney for the slightly better version of the PT-6. Yeah, the 12 is definitely larger. The PC-12 is definitely larger. It's like what? How many seats does the PC-12 have? 12? No, it wouldn't have 12. It's got to have like 8. It's probably twice as long. The fruit flies are coming back.
20 miles.
You can put bikes, wheelchairs, any number of things in the PC-12. TBM, true to its Mooney heritage, is pretty tight inside. Yeah, you can definitely see that. This is all you got here. Hello. I think, wasn't that the big selling point, though? Was like, oh, the cabin's taller. But, isn't that like, because like you can get those single, with not the Cirrus Vision Jet, but even the Bravo was not very tall. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead, and we are... ETA is about 2 minutes. We need to increase. Let's go ahead and start coming down. Do 2,000 feet a minute. Let's go ahead and start bringing the power out. We're going to be way high and fast. But we're at TBM, so here we go. Power's coming out. We'll set up for a practice approach. You can actually see we've already picked up the localizer in VOR2, which is pretty cool. It can be 9 or 10 in the PC-12. All right. What's up, Steven? Good to see you, man. Got a fruit fly. I got one. There's another one down. I've killed like probably 10 so far. Still have one more flying around. Let's go ahead and start slowing down. 10 miles from Mombi. We're actually gonna be way high on this approach. No, we're not slipping. We're right on the money. I'm aiming for PC-12 drop eventually with RFDS, black hole landings, and road landings. What's not to love? Hey, that sounds exciting, geographically inverted. Road landings and dirt landings, you're going to be using that inertial separator. Is it still inertial separator on the PC-12? Probably. I think
Kingery 3 Kilo Alpha.
it had ice veins. It's a 99, had ice veins. Same thing, though. Seven miles out. Mombi was supposed to be at 4.6. I'm going to go IAS hold now. We're going to go ahead and bring you... Oh, that was a little aggressive. That was not a good pilot technique there. 4,600 feet is set. We'll bring that prop up, even though where power's back, so it's not going to do much of a difference. Lights are coming on. They're all on. We're in pulse mode. Everything looks good up top. Boost pumps in auto. 10.4. What's after Mombi? Actually, what's our final? Our final is Damco, which is 3,100. Basically just above flight idle. There we go. We should be able to catch up to it here. Here comes the turn. Approach is armed. Again, this is just a test approach here. 9 seconds. Pilot Orion, I was in the San Diego area yesterday on VetSim. This fly, I got another fruit fly. Got him. There's the runway. And, yeah, we are way high. I'm gonna go autopilot off. At least we could see the instrumentation, though. Canberra traffic, TBM 7 Rob Mike at a 6.8 for runway 35, Canberra traffic. Let's go gear down. Let's catch up to it here. Let's go TBM mode. Watch this gear come down. We'll catch up to it. You would not be able to do this in the Airbus. All right, gear is down. Flaps 1 speed is like 1. It's faster. Takeoff is 178. So yeah, let's go flaps to the quote-unquote approach mode. Now she's coming down. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of a slip. Let's go ahead and roll it in. Get that rudder in. Now look at that. Look at our speed. There we go. Forward slip down. Don't get to do that in Adopt a Bus, do you, Wignut? Oh, I see that 7.3 on final there. 178. Stabilized. This is stabilized. There's our terrain warning going off. Roll that slip out. Oh, this guy's 7.3's in front of us. I'm gonna come all the way up to final. Let's go flight director off and yaw damper off because you can't have those on for landing. We don't need an inertial separator. I'm gonna slow all the way up to final, like 80 knots. And then we're gonna continue to come down. Just trying to give that 737 enough time. Kind of testing the testing the flight characteristics here. Here we go, 80 knots. Basically short approach mode. Look at that. Short approach over a 50-foot obstacle. Anybody remember doing those? Oh, you get to slip in the RV-8 wingnut? Wingnut, do you have... Okay, so we were trying to get this figured out in the Discord. Is there an alternate static on your RV-8? Do you have or do you even have... I would imagine you have a pitot static system. Do you have an alternate static system? Why is it when you... if you're on the ground with the engines off, if you pull the alternate static out, do you still have the needles move? Because the books say, well, it's due to the slipstream and the pressure outside, inside differential, blah, blah, blah. I say it's because the very action of you pulling the alternate static out, you're creating lower pressure inside. So that's what would make the needles move on the ground with the engines off. But I can't find any proof to back that up. Oh, are you kidding me?
You're setting who off?
Chat. This is what happens. This is what happens when you aren't paying attention. I literally just hit replay instead of record. You can't be serious.
I want you to go around. It's going to overshot. I'm going to make a right down with Timber.
500.
You can't be serious. Are you kidding me? I just hit replay. I just hit replay instead of record. I wanted to land that. We were looking so good. You cannot be serious. Well, this was our landing into Mount Booty. That was pretty good. I need to get a little bit more flare. I need to get a little bit more flare, pitch, attitude there. Still coming in a little bit flat. I can't believe I did that. Well, at least we have one saved. A fail sail today. That's on me. That's alright. Depending on what happens here in a little bit, I might do a little members only situation here later this evening. Let's enjoy the rest of this landing here coming in. This one was pretty good here. I actually like this, but it's still flat. Man. Well, definitely a unique way to end a stream, indeed, Daniel. I cannot believe I did that. I cannot believe I did that. Alright. Well, thank you all who all flew along with me today. That was fun. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you maybe saw something cool that you liked or didn't like. Doesn't matter. I had fun. So maybe you learned a little something on the ECS panel. I will try to... We're going to be back live probably next week sometime. We'll have to take a look at that. Just be alert on the schedule. I'll try to post something. Maybe we'll be back in the Airbus or the TBM. Who knows? But until the next one, stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy your Friday. I'm V1. See you.